Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn is one of the most gripping psychological thrillers of the 21st century, a story that dissects the illusions of marriage, the manipulation of media, and the dark complexity of human nature. Released in 2012, it quickly became a cultural phenomenon, sparking conversations about gender, truth, and the stories we tell about ourselves. Gone Girl is a novel that begins as a missing person mystery and evolves into a disturbing study of deceit and identity. It examines what happens when love turns toxic, and when the public narrative of a relationship hides something much more sinister beneath. What starts as a story of a husband searching for his missing wife transforms into a shocking portrait of manipulation, revenge, and survival. The novel is told in alternating perspectives, one from Nick Dunn, the husband, and the other from diary entries written by his wife, Amy Elliott Dunn. On the morning of their 5th wedding anniversary, Nick returns home to find the front door open, furniture overturned, and Amy missing. There are clear signs of a struggle. From the first pages, the story establishes tension through Nick's detached and sometimes inappropriate reactions. Instead of appearing devastated, he seems oddly calm, even evasive, when the police arrive. Amy's disappearance quickly becomes a national story, partly because she's not just anyone. She's Amazing Amy, the inspiration for a series of beloved children's books written by her parents. As the police investigate, suspicion grows around Nick. Clues start to surface that point toward him. There are large credit card debts, a life insurance policy recently increased in Amy's name, and a diary that paints a disturbing picture of their marriage. In her diary entries, Amy describes how their once passionate relationship had deteriorated. She writes about Nick's growing coldness, their move from New York to Missouri after both lost their jobs, and her increasing fear of him. As the story progresses, Nick's behavior makes things worse. The media portray him as a smirking, manipulative husband who probably killed his wife. He doesn't help his case when he smiles awkwardly at a press conference. The public quickly turns against him. Meanwhile, Nick's own narration starts revealing cracks in his character. He admits to lying to the police about certain details. He also hides the fact that he's been having an affair with a young student named Andy. The affair makes him look even more guilty, and he knows it. Yet despite his flaws, there's something about his narration that makes the reader doubt the straightforward story Amy's diary is telling. Halfway through the book, everything changes. The famous twist reveals that Amy is alive. She has orchestrated her own disappearance to frame Nick for her murder. The diary was fabricated, filled with a mixture of truth and fiction, designed to lead the police to a clear conclusion. Nick killed Amy. Amy's voice takes over as she reveals how she planned every detail. She created fake evidence, forged diary entries, and even staged the crime scene. She planted clues in a treasure hunt tradition she and Nick used to share, knowing the police would find them and interpret them as signs of guilt. She even befriended a pregnant neighbor to use her as a witness who could later testify about Amy's supposed fears of Nick. Amy's plan is both meticulous and deranged. She intended to drown herself after ensuring Nick would be convicted, completing the illusion of his guilt. But her plan begins to unravel when she's robbed at a motel by people she trusted. Stripped of her money and resources, she turns to an old ex-boyfriend, Desi Collins, a wealthy and obsessive man who once stalked her. Desi takes Amy to a secluded lake house, supposedly for her protection. But Amy quickly realizes that she has traded one form of control for another. Desi's devotion becomes suffocating, and she sees no way out until she decides to turn the tables again. Back in Missouri, Nick has become the face of a nationwide scandal. Despite his anger, he begins to understand Amy's mindset. He knows she's alive. He starts giving media interviews, pretending to be the remorseful, loving husband she wanted him to be, in the hope that she'll see and come back. His instincts are right, Watching him from Daisy's house, Amy sees the interviews and starts to believe he truly wants her back, or at least that he now understands her version of their relationship. But she's also cornered, desperate, and dangerous. Amy murders Desi in a calculated and horrifying scene, staging it to look like self-defense. She returns home covered in blood, collapsing into Nick's arms before the cameras. The nation, already obsessed with the case, turns its attention to the miraculous return of the missing wife. Amy's story about her kidnapping and escape becomes the new headline. The police, despite their doubts, are forced to accept it because the evidence supports her fabricated version. Nick, however, knows the truth. He confronts her privately, and Amy admits everything. She tells him she did it to punish him, to make him the husband she always wanted. She believes they are now bound together forever. Nick wants to expose her, but Amy has one last manipulation prepared. During her return, she used Nick's DNA, saved from an earlier sexual encounter, to inseminate herself. Now she's pregnant, claiming it's his child. Nick realizes that revealing the truth about her would destroy his life, their child's future, and possibly lead to his own imprisonment for a crime he didn't commit. The novel ends with a haunting sense of resignation. Nick stays with Amy. He doesn't love her, but he can't escape her. Both of them have learned to play the game so well that they're trapped inside it. Amy narrates the final scene, speaking with cold satisfaction about their future together, while Nick imagines the life ahead, a performance that will never end. Gone Girl is more than a mystery. It's a dark mirror held up to modern relationships and media culture. Gillian Flynn builds her story around unreliable narration, forcing the reader to question everything. Both Nick and Amy lie, but their lies reveal uncomfortable truths about gender roles, marriage, and the way people perform for others. Amy represents the extreme version of the cool girl archetype she criticizes in her famous monologue, where she talks about how women shape themselves to fit male expectations, pretending to love what men love, never showing neediness or anger. Amy initially plays that role for Nick, but when she realizes he no longer adores her, she rebels with terrifying precision. Her revenge is both personal and cultural, a protest against the false narratives women are expected to live within. Nick, on the other hand, is the embodiment of male weakness and vanity. He wants to be admired and loved without owning it. His affair with a younger woman mirrors his emotional laziness. Flynn makes it clear that Nick is not innocent. He's just not as skilled a manipulator as Amy. The media plays a crucial role in the story, amplifying every twist of the case, shaping public perception, and turning a private tragedy into entertainment. Flynn uses the 24-hour news cycle to show how easily the truth can be distorted. The story of the Dunns becomes a spectacle, an indictment of how society consumes scandal. Flynn's writing style is sharp, witty, and psychological. The alternating perspectives create a rhythm that builds suspense, each chapter reshaping what the reader believes. The sudden shift midway through the book, when Amy's voice returns and reveals her deception, is one of the most famous twists in modern fiction. It's not just shocking, it redefines the genre. Gone Girl is also a study in identity and self-invention. Both Nick and Amy create versions of themselves for public consumption. The perfect husband, the perfect wife, the perfect victim. Flynn uses these constructed personas to explore how people manipulate perception, not only in the media, but within relationships. The ending is one of the most chilling aspects of the novel. It refuses closure. Instead of justice or redemption, Flynn gives us a portrait of mutual dependence poisoned by deceit. Nick and Amy stay together not out of love, but because they have no one else who understands their darkness. Their marriage becomes a symbol of toxic symbiosis, a relationship held together by lies, power, and fear. In a broader sense, Gone Girl asks the reader to reflect on how stories are told and believed. Every person, every couple, creates a narrative to explain their lives. Flynn exposes how fragile those narratives are and how easily they can be rewritten by someone more persuasive, more ruthless, or simply louder. The book's success also comes from how it crosses genres. It's part thriller, part social satire, part psychological study. Flynn combines the tension of crime fiction with the depth of literary exploration. The result is a story that is both entertaining and unsettling. Even years after its release, Gone Girl continues to resonate because it challenges assumptions about good and evil, truth and fiction, victim and villain. It portrays the modern marriage not as a fairy tale, but as a negotiation between two flawed individuals trying to control the story of their lives and sometimes each other. Gone Girl remains one of the defining thrillers of its generation, a novel that redefined what readers expect from the genre. Gillian Flynn's mastery of psychology and suspense turns an ordinary domestic mystery into a sharp commentary on love, lies, and the masks people wear. It's a story that lingers long after the last page, not just because of its shocking twists, but because it forces us to question how well we really know the people closest to us, and even ourselves. If you enjoy thoughtful, story-driven explorations of complex characters and psychological suspense, consider subscribing to the channel. There are many more book summaries and analyses like this one, each unpacking what makes great storytelling so powerful and unforgettable.